Hey, Wentworth World Entertainment. The Mummy 4 is officially happening, we know that. Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz are officially coming back. That is now 100% confirmed. They've signed the contracts and everything. But in my last video about The Mummy 4, I asked the question, would that movie be the first time we've seen an actor leave a franchise, be recast, but then come back as that character? And that was going to be the question, because as we know, Rachel Weisz did not return for The Mummy 3. Well, the question is now moot. Why? Because the director has now confirmed that The Mummy 3 is no longer canon. Yet they're retconning the third movie. Now, is that a wise move? Should they do that? I don't really know. You know, you are removing a story that did further the relationship between Rick O'Connell and Evie, their son who was growing up and stuff. So it's an interesting one, but let's have a look at the article that talks about this. So it's saying the Mummy franchise began in 1999 and introduced moviegoers to Brendan Fraser's Rick O'Connell and Rachel Weisz's Evelyn Carnahan. Following a clash with a resurrected Imhotep, they later returned in 2001's The Mummy Returns, which introduced Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Scorpion King. That character was front and center in his own ill-fated spin-off before the franchise rose from the dead in 2008 with The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. That also didn't receive the warmest responses, even with Jet Li taking on a starring role. Just before we go on, it still did well enough. It just got panned by critics. The fans' reaction was very mixed on it. The Scorpion King, the fans enjoyed that. The critics didn't enjoy it as much, but the fans did enjoy it. Now, it didn't blow the doors off the box office or anything, but it was still a fun addition. So it's saying here, perhaps the most disappointing for long-time fans was Weisz not reprising her role as Evelyn and being replaced by Coyote Ugly star Maria Bello. The now confirmed fourth chapter, helmed by Scream filmmakers Matt, I'm never sure how you pronounce his name, Bellinelli Oplin, I think, I never can pronounce his name, and Tyler Gillette, aka Radio Silence, will reunite Fraser and Weisz, raising questions about what that means for Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Asked by Entertainment Weekly if that divisive third movie should be considered canon, Matt said, "Well, Rachel is in this one," with Gillette adding, "That should answer the question for you." So, praising David Cogshell's script, the former said this movie had all of the heart and the character that you could hope for. "I don't think Brendan and Rachel are getting involved unless they love that script, and what they read, I think they really liked, and it's a good script. It's going to be fun to make." His fellow director called it really beautiful and scary and sweeping, and it's awesome. So right there, they're not exactly answering the question straight up, but with them saying Rachel is back in this one, that should answer your question. When the guy said, should the other one be considered canon, is basically them saying Rachel is back for this one. She wasn't in the last one. There go. Do you really consider the third one canon? I think you kind of have to. And especially if, what happens if the script does include the story from that? Like when they said, you know, that time when we were in Japan or China or wherever, and all this stuff, I remember we fought the Yetis. It'd be like, okay. Also, that could be one of the reasons they don't want to include that one as canon, because maybe they want that kind of the mystical type of stuff to only be focused on the mummies instead of abominable snowmen that were running around. So as of how they came to be involved with what Gillette calls a dream project, it sounds much of the credit belongs to William Sherrick, who has produced each of their movies, including Ready or Not, Scream and Scream 4, and Abigail. Didn't that Abigail flop? Wasn't that like a disaster horror movie? I can't remember. But anyway, Gillette shared, "William's always way ahead of us. Matt and I, what we're doing next is we're finishing the day. We have 8 setups, and Williams always talking about the next thing. And he was like, hey, I think I'm gonna get us Mummy. In our heads, we're going, that'd be effing crazy. There's no way Williams gonna pull it off. Cut to, we're finishing Abigail, and we're meeting with the writer, and we're designing a pitch. We have been in this line of work long enough to know that nothing is real until it's very, very real. It's all speculative. And it feels great to give energy to really wonderful ideas. But we have learned to keep those opportunities a little bit at arm's distance, because it's just easy to have your heart broken. So that is an intelligent thing to actually do. Like, oh my god, we could be getting this, but you know what? Let's not dive 100% into it just in case. You know, maybe they learned lessons from seeing people working with Star Wars, where it's like, we're going to do a trilogy for Star Wars. Oh no, we're not. We just got fired. That type of crap. So as noted, David Cogshell, who did The Family Plan, Orphan and First Kill, Orphan for First Kill, don't know what that is, wrote the screenplay for this next installment of the franchise, with Sean Daniel returning as a producer. William Sharrock, James Vanderbilt, and Paul Neinstein will produce through Project X Entertainment, blah blah blah. We know all that stuff. The Mummy 4 arrives in theaters on May 19th, 2028. I thought it was May 18th. Maybe I was wrong. Either way, they are kind of hinting that, yeah, because Rachel Weisz wasn't in the 3rd movie and she is going to be in the 4th movie, that right there answers the question of, hey, is Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, is that canon? They're basically saying, nah. Again, I wonder if it's not just the whole idea that Rachel Weisz wasn't in it. I wonder if it's like they went a bit way into the kind of fantastical element, which, like, we're talking about resurrected mummies here. So how fantastical do you go, well, that's too much or that's not enough? Yeah, abominable snowman that were running around was a bit weird, but it still added to what that movie was meant to be and where they were meant to be and stuff like that. So it does kind of remove it from just kind of the mummies being the things running around. But overall, again, they're trying to say that, yeah, the 3rd movie has been pretty much retconned. But if there's any references to that movie, like scenarios with the sun or anything like that, then it's clearly canon. Unless they're kind of soft retconning it, where elements of it exist, but other parts of it don't, you know? So maybe it is like, well, we fought this emperor mummy, but we definitely didn't go into snowy areas and fight alongside abominable snowmen. Maybe that could be what they're doing. We'll have to wait and see, but from the sounds of things, they are pretty much retconning the 3rd movie. Is that a good idea? Should they do that? Don't really know, but let's see what we get anyway. So what do you guys think? Because as I said, I did originally ask the question, like, would this movie be the first time that someone who was the lead in movies, or just starred in a movie franchise, left it but came back after someone else had taken over the role? Now it's the question of, does it even matter? Let us know what you think anyway. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like and share and subscribe and all that good stuff. Cheers. I'll catch you in the next one.